You're listening to The Vidaurri Effect with your host, Rudy Vidaurri, owner of the Apex Predator MMA Gym in Rancho Cordova, California, co-hosted by Jennifer Steele. Now here's Rudy. It's on.
My name is Sensei Rudy Vidaurri. I am the owner and head coach of Apex Predator Mixed Martial Arts in Rancho Cordova, and you're listening to The Vidaurri Effect. Today I want to talk about relationships. I don't even know where to start, but I got a lot to say. I think everybody's been in a relationship at this point, especially you adults listening. You kids, you out there, you're having puppy love, enjoy it. Once you get older, it gets serious. The game's over. Who here's been in a shitty relationship? Raising hand.
I raised my hand.
If I had 5 hands, 6 hands, 7 hands, 8 hands, 9, if I had fucking an octopus worth of hands, But, in hindsight, you just have to look at all those experiences and kind of take it for what it is, take from it what you can, the wisdom, the ability to understand that you can't put yourself in the same situations over and over and over again. The very definition of insanity is doing the same fucking thing and expecting a different result. And if you're in a bad relationship right now, or if you're freshly out of a bad relationship, it's something that you need to look in the mirror with. Be introspective, take a look at why you put yourself in that situation, why you subjected yourself to abuse or control or all of the above. And what's going on in your head that you feel like you're not good enough to deserve more. And when you realize that you are good enough, that you matter, that you deserve more, you have to try to surround yourself with people that'll feed that, that'll foster that, with a girl that's going to be there for you. I think I always talk about in fighting, the one person you have to overcome before you can overcome your opponent is yourself. We can be our own worst enemy in that respect. But a relationship shouldn't be about pain and suffering. It shouldn't be about sacrifice. It shouldn't be about showing how much you can tolerate. That's what torture chambers are for. You want to come to one of my MMA classes at 4 p.m. and feel the heat, well, then yeah, I'd be glad to put some torture on you and show you what it takes to be an MMA fighter. Yeah. But for those of you who aren't out there to be ultimate fighters, you don't have to put yourself through the ball and chain. You don't have to grind. You don't have to make a relationship any harder than it needs to be. Am I right, Jen?
Oh, yeah. I mean, who hasn't been in a situation that you look back on and go, wow, I wonder why I stayed in that situation for so long, And you're right that you absolutely have to go through those to learn what a good relationship is. But I think that part of the challenge is knowing when to leave, obviously, or when to move on, right?
Absolutely. And a good manipulator will make you feel obligated to stay for A, B, and C reasons, whether it's kids, whether it's because they make you codependent, or because they try to beat your confidence down to make you think that you're not going to be able to do better than them in the long run.
Yeah, and that's like the worst form, in my opinion. One of the worst things that happens is when one person is so unhappy and they really just put that on the other person.
Oh, yeah.
In ways of guilt and other things that make you not able, for whatever reason, to leave.
Misery loves company, and the people that fit that mold are going to project their own insecurities, inadequacies, and fears onto you. And they're always going to make it seem like it's your problem and blame you for all the things that they really struggle with.
Yeah, and it's like you got together with this person allegedly because you had a lot in common, you liked each other, and you started off liking each other. And sometimes I think it ends up where one person becomes the dead weight and the other person, like you just said, is struggling to try to still control you and all of that stuff. And it just becomes this big downward spiral, and it's not happy and positive for any situation. It's
got to be, mutual respect, and it's got to be for all the right reasons. If you're looking at somebody who's dragging you down, it usually isn't something that happens overnight. It starts for all the right reasons, and you're in love and you feel good and you feel high about this person. And, in your mind, you rationalize to be like, this is the person I need to be with. And obviously nobody's going to enter a relationship without feeling like it's something that they want or desire, or that it's going to be good for them.
I think part of the challenge is to try to remain true to who you are.
Oh, yeah.
Because when you start morphing into the other person in your relationship, it gets difficult to sort of pull that apart and remember why you or what you were looking for. I guess what I'm trying to say is it's hard to not compromise yourself.
Right.
But you have to try really hard to not compromise what you think you need out of a relationship.
Absolutely. And part of that is being completely honest with the people that you are courting about who you really are. So that way you're not portraying yourself as something you're not in order to get them to fall in love with you, only to try and uphold that standard throughout a relationship and develop resentments because you can't be the person that they thought you were. I think, part of it is our own self-honesty with others as we enter relationships, but a lot of it is that people need to respect our values, and people that fall in love with us for who we really are need to appreciate that and not try to change us, and I just got out of a very toxic marriage, and I haven't really spoken about it up to this point, but, I want everybody to feel empowered that, sometimes stepping away is the right thing to do. Even if you have children that you love very much, it doesn't mean you can't be a good father or parent or mother. You have to think long term, your health, your happiness, what's better for the kids, what's better for you. And if people are trying to take away your happiness or sabotage your confidence or control you and not appreciate you for who you really are, then you don't need them in your life.
Yeah, and going back to what you just said about staying true to yourself, I think that's one of the things we learn early on is we all try to portray ourselves as this perfect person that, they say that every new relationship at about 3 months hits a point where you start learning the real things about the person that you're with, because you tried to portray yourself as all these great things up front. And just being who you are, I think, takes practice and time. But, that's what those practice relationships are for. I always say you got to have your practice marriage.
Yeah.
Get that one out of the way.
I had one of those too.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
So I can say that, but I'm kidding. But it's important to try to remain who you are, because I think at the other end of it, you'll feel so much better whether it works out or not.
You have to always think, is this something that I can sustain? And if you're putting on a front just to try to make somebody else happy or impress somebody, that's not sustainable. It's going to take so much out of you. It's exhausting. Being truly happy, shouldn't take effort, because that's not real happiness. That's work, and if your relationship is more work than it is happiness, the good has to outweigh the bad. I'm not going to say that relationships also, even good, healthy ones, aren't work. There's going to be disagreements. There's going to be times where, you don't always see eye to eye or get along, but it doesn't mean that it's over, but if it comes a point where there's times that you feel that bad outweighs the good, you have to reevaluate, you have to reassess and really think to yourself, is this something that's worth it? Because in the end, like I always talk about on my podcast, life's too short. You don't have a lot of time to hit the reset button. You don't have do-overs, and if you're in your prime and somebody is holding you back from achieving, or they want you to, for example, close your business that's doing well, that's not something or somebody that has your best interest in mind.
No, not at all. Yeah, it's so tricky because you start to love a person, and there's certain things and qualities about that person that you love. And I think maybe in some cases you start to feel responsible for somebody. And you are not responsible for someone else's happiness. You are not responsible for someone else's well-being. They have to be able to do that on their own. And then, you can come together and nurture that in each other. But you have to be really careful of that.
Yeah, and if you feel like you're a people pleaser or somebody who needs to save something, go get a pet, Buy a fucking lizard, Feed it some ants or some shit.
I had an iguana one time. He bit me, and that was about 3 weeks into it, and then I didn't have an iguana anymore.
Little asshole. Yeah. You take him out in the backyard with a shovel. See you later, dude.
You're out of here, bud.
Yeah. Little barbecue sauce on that guy. Yeah, I think they do that in Guam or something. But sorry, Guam. But it's something that like we can look back in hindsight and kind of have something to smile about, and laugh about, these war stories. But for a lot of other people, it's a reality. They're stuck in a nightmare right now. They're probably driving down the street thinking, yeah, must be fun. Here you guys are doing well, kicking ass, putting it behind you. It's in the rearview mirror. But for a lot of people, they're stuck in something where they are trying to, save somebody else, or they feel like they're stuck, or they're trapped, or they're in something for all the wrong reasons, or now they're too deep, or they're financially stuck. And, I lived in LA. I saw a lot of that. I saw girls in relationships with guys that were rich and never had remotely any interest in them, and stuck around for convenience. I've seen people, guys stuck in relationships where they got cheated on left and right by the girl just because the girl was pretty, and they felt like they weren't going to be able to do better. I mean, people will stay in the most bizarre situations for all the wrong reasons. And if that's you right now, and if you're driving down the street right now and you got a tear rolling down your cheek and you're saying, fuck my life, and this person is really just making me unhappy and miserable. Well, yeah, that sucks. But I also want you to take a look at you and what you've done to enable that, and if there aren't healthy boundaries that you're drawing on a daily basis, or if you let it get out of control to the point where you've now tried to establish boundaries, but it's too late, and the person doesn't respect that one way or another, you still have the power. You still have the power to leave. And whether you're in it for convenience, or you feel like you're going to be out in the cold, or you feel like you're never going to find anybody else again, you have to weigh the balance and think of what's going to be more important. Your health, happiness, sanity, and emotional well-being, or a little inconvenience to struggle to go and find someone else, or, not be in a lap of luxury if you're living in a nice, arranged marriage or with somebody who's a millionaire, but you're miserable. I mean, there's always a way out. There are always options, and you have the power to control that.
You may have to do a little legwork, there's a lot of people who have to stay in situations for a little while till you are able to find a situation to put yourself in that's better. Whether it's, I know when I got my divorce, I went and lived with my grandmother for a couple of months, and she was awesome. It was an awesome period of time. I loved that period of time.
She baked you some cookies?
Oh yeah, she was, she had been through the same thing when she was younger.
Yeah.
And so she was a good person for me to be with, and she loved my daughter a lot. She took care of her for me. And, you have to sort of look at those situations and the things that you get out of them, and sort of try to cherish that time rather than go, oh, I'm going to be in this time where I'm going to be living at my grandma's house. It's like, no, take something from it and just try to enjoy every series of the steps that you take to become your own person again.
Enjoy the process, and it might take a step back to take 2 steps forward sometimes, and that's something that, you'll discover is sometimes this newfound joy for life, this independence, this freedom, without looking over your shoulder or being on eggshells or being judged, and sometimes people get so used to that, and in an unhealthy way, they appreciate the attention or the control because they actually feel like somebody's there and somebody gives a fuck enough to care enough to try to control them. But those are all the wrong reasons. That's not why you want to be in a relationship. And yes, it might be a struggle. Stepping away might be uncomfortable, but I always talk about coming out of your comfort zone to achieve enlightenment, and if you're able to step away, you have to go live with a grandparent, or you have to go to enjoy that time and enjoy getting back to you again. I just celebrated my birthday. I'm 43 years old. I've never felt better. It was probably the most important birthday for me to go inward and feel introspective and really think about and pause for a moment and reflect on all that I've achieved, all the people I've helped, what I've really become as a full-grown man now at 43. I wouldn't change any of it. I'm very proud. And also, despite what I'm going through, with the divorce and all those other things, I have this newfound sense of happiness and freedom, and it can be a little bit uneasy, stepping away from something that's familiar and that's been there forever. But, at the end of the day, if you lose track of you, then you've lost everything. You always have to stay true to who you are. And I'm very happy that I have done that and I have maintained that.
abuse comes in many forms, and it can be emotional, it can be physical, it can be lots of things. But if you're in that kind of situation, I think also what happens is you become a little bit numb to your situation and desensitized, and you let people get away with talking to you a certain way they shouldn't talk to you. And so if you end up in that spiral, you have to sort of take a step back and look and see, you know, like it doesn't feel good when this person talks to me that way. So you don't deserve to be talked to that way. Don't be in that situation anymore. Walk away from it.
Yep. It takes more strength sometimes to step away from something that you know is going to bring uncertainty than to stay with something that is certainly going to be bad for you, you know? And, I mean, that just takes courage, you know, the leap of faith. It's something that we talk about. I always talk about taking risks in life here, whether it's something you want to do in business, if you want to be successful, if you want to take a risk, if you want to approach the girl that you've been seeing at the store, you know, for the last several months that maybe gives you a smile, you know, as you pass. You know, you got to take the risk. You got to go out there. You got to show some balls, you know, and I mean balls for everybody, girls too. You know, you guys got to go out there. If you want something bad enough, or if you're tired of dealing with something enough, you have to take the risk. You have to take the risk to walk away. And on the other side of the coin, you know, we're talking about leaving bad relationships. If you want a good relationship, you have to improve yourself. You have to become strong. You have to become confident. You have to become attractive, you know, in your own right, whatever that looks like, you know, and confidence is the best way to do that. Achieving things, doing things, practicing things that are going to build your worth, your value within your own self, you know, not according to anybody else's measure, you know, but like for your own self. If you focus on you, it's the best way to attract people to you, you know, because if you're trying to do it for everybody else, you know, and people smell that desperation, they're not going to want any part of it. But if people see you focus on you and you're doing well and you're kicking ass and you're thriving, all of a sudden girls will start looking your way. You're going to get the attention that you never had before, you know. Just my 2 cents.
You know, I think in all relationships, not even just romantic relationships, but it's important to check all of the relationships in your life. Maybe it's with your family.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe it's with your friends, you know, because you can have toxic friend relationships too, or toxic family relationships that are not good for you. And those are difficult to get out of also.
Oh, yeah. And I think if you look at your relationships with your family or with your parents or with your friends, all of a sudden you'll see a reflection in your romantic relationships and how you approach those too, or what you allow yourself to tolerate. So it's important to realize that whatever, you know, relationships that you've been in with your parents or with, you know, the people around you or your siblings, you know, and that's something that you should really take to heart, because it might serve as a model for how you're going to be in a marriage or in a serious long-term relationship. And if it hasn't been healthy for something that you've seen or what you've been modeled, you need to try to like recognize that and fix the problem before you carry that over into whatever respective relationship you have, you know, and then make that somebody else's problem. It's a vicious cycle, you know. But yeah, friendships can be great. Friendships can be toxic, and even almost on a deeper note than a romantic relationship, because those are the people you're supposed to trust and confide in, you know. And sometimes the very people you hold closest to yourself are the very people that are the most resentful or jealous or like, you know, or unhappy, that want to like hold you back in life.
Yeah, you know, and one of my favorite quotes is that you can't pick your family. You can pick your friends, but you are born into your family. And just because you're born into that family doesn't mean you're going to automatically be close to every family member. And you can't really feel bad about that. I think that we're so conditioned to think that we're supposed to be so close to our family. And I'm lucky that I am, you know, but there's a lot of people I know who have zero relationship. They don't even ever talk to their brothers or sisters, or, you know, and that's okay, because they've come to peace with the fact that they don't have that much in common.
I was just talking about this yesterday with a very close friend of mine. And, you know, it was something that your family is what you make of it. But yeah, I am in large part the black sheep of my family. You know, it was, I lost my dad at an early age. There was a lot of things about, you know, my upbringing that kind of put me on my own path, you know, and it's nothing against them. Hey, I wish them the best, but, sometimes you got to fly solo in life and you got to go out there on your own and you got to kick ass for yourself. And, if you don't have that kind of support group or the people around you that are going to be necessarily like what's a traditional family, dynamic is going to look like, then that's okay. Hell, I know people, I got an uncle, so to speak. He just gifted me a samurai sword for my birthday. He's not even blood related, but we're very close, and he's got dogs, he's got pit bulls,
Wow.
and those are his family, and your family is what you make of it, and that's the beauty in life is that, you can't pick your family. And I always talk about this is that you also don't necessarily owe anybody anything either.
That's a great thing to remember.
Yeah. Because then if you feel the obligation to people just because, well, hey, you're my brother or you're my sister or like, you're my son, look at everything I sacrificed for you. It's like, yeah, okay. With all respect, I'm respectful. I try to help how I can. But if you're going to use that to try to take advantage or get something from me that I don't necessarily owe you, then you're flawed. And it's important to realize too that parents or people that sometimes were models aren't perfect. People that we're in relationships with, whether they're just friendships or whether they're romantic, nobody is perfect, and I think people that hold others to that standard need a reality check because people are going to make mistakes. People are human,
Yeah.
All of a sudden I'm hearing human league in my head,
There's all kinds of different relationships. And when you sit down and you look at all of the relationships in your life, try to decide which ones are the ones that are worth saving or working on and the ones that aren't, you don't have to pay as much attention to, or form an exit plan from that relationship.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think a plan is something like we talk about with goals on this podcast all the time. It doesn't mean you have to drive straight home and be like, hey, fuck you, I'm out. I mean, that's one way to handle it. I've done that too.
Yeah.
I've done that too.
Yeah.
There's a scene in the movie Half Baked where the guy quits his gig at the fast food joint and he's like, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. You're cool. Fuck you, I'm out. And then he throws the hamburger at the other guy.
All right.
But,
that's the person who's had too much.
Yeah. And that's okay too. Sometimes it doesn't have to be ceremonious. You can unceremoniously leave a relationship, but, at the end of the day, your reputation follows you. It's better to be respectful and take the high road and be the bigger person. If you're going to step out and you're going to start cheating on somebody because you feel like you have the reason to do that or because they're not treating you well, sometimes it's easier to just walk away, It
is because it leads to no good for anybody. And I've been in situations where things like that have happened and you never feel good about it. You look back on it, you're like, why did I just not leave? And, save yourself the worry later. By trying to do the right thing now.
Yeah, because then somebody treating you poorly doesn't mean you have to treat yourself poorly. And I'm not judging anyone. I mean, I have lived and seen and done it all, and I have left relationships in all different kinds of ways, and there are gray areas. And I'm going to tell you right now, what used to be looked at as right and wrong, these days there's a lot of different layers to that, and you have to do what's right for you, and you have to look at your own situation and understand that every situation is unique, but that there has to be boundaries, and if you're treating yourself with the same self-respect that you expect others to treat you with, then everything should be okay.
It's a really good point. You got to, everything we've talked about up to this point leads to that, like being okay in your own skin and, striving to do better and just, you're right. People will notice that in you and they will respect that in you.
They gravitate towards it. And it's the same confidence that you can see. I used to work with, big dogs, with Rottweilers and Pit Bulls and Dobermans and when I lived in Los Angeles, and the dogs respect the confidence. They will follow you when you lead, no matter how vicious they look or how, and it's kind of the same thing in life too. If you have that swagger, not false confidence, but like real, cool, calm, collected, ice in your veins confidence, people pick up on that just like a dog will, and they'll follow that, and you can be the leader. And then it's a much, much better way to have things gravitate towards you than to chase it.
And not everyone's in a situation where they were born feeling very confident. I mean, sometimes you have to learn confidence. It takes a while to get there sometimes, but, try to be comfortable in who you are and try to surround yourself with the people that are going to help you and try to get that confidence, because that will help you in everything you do.
I train a lot of students, and one thing that I see them take away from this, is confidence, learning to fight. Learning how to defend yourself, I think on a very primal level, is something that is important, and the correlation here to MMA and how it saved my life, and how it kind of saved my confidence and that I never wavered in my belief in myself, really kind of translated to like all the other success I had in life, And I'm not saying it has to be MMA, I'm not telling you, hey, go sign up for my gym and put on, MMA gloves and start like socking each other in the face and choking each other out to find enlightenment. I'm just saying what worked for me, and it can be anything. You never know what's going to flip that switch. And even if you feel like it's a latter point in life and you're past your prime or you're a little bit older, doesn't mean that you can still have meaningful and healthy relationships, that don't involve marriage or that aren't going to be what everybody likes to romanticize and portray as on TV. Relationships take a lot of different forms. They look like a lot of different things, and the one thing that I always want my listeners to remember is that your relationship with yourself is probably the most important one you're going to have in life.
I can't agree with you more on that point. You got to be good with you.
Yeah.
Before you're going to be good for anybody else.
Oh yeah. And loving yourself, and I was going to go a dirty joke there. But you won't have to love yourself that way as much if you have the confidence to love yourself, and then you can have somebody else love you that way too. Yeah,
yeah. And we'll end it on a positive note.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, let's end it on a positive note there.
Yeah. You know what, though? You're right. You have to be good with you. And then don't worry about finding somebody to be with, because they will find you.
Absolutely. And the person who's meant for you will come into your life one way or another. If you chase, people smell that desperation, and the last thing you want to be is the guy at the bar with the blazer, like saying, hey, can I borrow you a martini?
Yeah, save it, dude.
Yeah, douchebag. Desperation is the worst scent. It's the worst scent, and confidence is the best fragrance.
Very well put.
I just made that shit up.
I like that.
I should write fortune cookies or some shit. Well, I want to thank you guys for listening. This has probably been the easiest, most seamless podcast that we've ever recorded.
Yeah.
Could probably go on for another 2 hours.
We got a lot to say in that department, and you will too as time goes on. And just try to make happiness your goal. That's the end game. My name is Sensei Rudy Vidaurri. I am the owner and head coach of Apex Predator Mixed Martial Arts in Rancho Cordova. If you guys want to find me again, it's apexpredatormma.com. Thanks for listening. Stay blessed.
The Vidaurri Effect is a Steel Voices production, recorded, produced, mixed, and engineered at Cat House Studios by Jennifer Steele. Hosted and created by Rudy Vidaurri, owner of the Apex Predator MMA Gym in Rancho Cordova, California. More info and full episodes available at apexpredatormma.com, steelvoices.com, and wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you for listening to The Vidaurri Effect.